Hi everyone, I have been contacted by Nick Banks, who is an artist, and he has sent me a free download of his Colouring Wildcats digital downloadable book. It's a PDF file and it's available on Etsy in his shop called The Minted Canvas, and I will provide a link to that in the description. I've printed it all off on quite rough copy paper, and I thought I would do like a flip through so you could see all the pictures, and then I thought I would have a go at doing a little bit of colouring on one of them. They're quite big pictures, as you will see, but I thought I would do a little bit. Now ignore the colouring on here, the colour. My printer was running out of ink and it's very stripy. I got my husband to put more ink in and clean all the print heads before I printed the one I'm actually going to colour. This was just so I could do a little flip through for you rather than trying to do it on a tablet and show you digital pages. I wasn't really sure how to do that. So it's also got a bit creased and things, so sort of ignore the quality is what I'm trying to say. So this is the cover anyway of the book, and then on this side we get a small picture of each of the cats. You can see the sort of format they're going to take. Let me just come out a little bit, there we go. Sorry, you can see the edge of my pencil tin here. But it's got the names of all the cats, which means that you can look them up and figure out how they're supposed to look if you want to do a sort of copy. But as you can see, it's not just an outline. We have, I can see a line through there from my printer, and we have a lot of little details. So you can choose to try and colour it realistically and sort of ignore all this, or you can use this to help you make it more fun and more different. So you've got a sort of options there, which I think is really good. So if we go through the names, I'm going to sort of keep this page open so I can tell you. So this is an Andean mountain cat. And the next one, I printed them on the back, but it's probably better to print single-sided. This is a Canadian mountain lynx. Look at his tufty bit there. I think it's really fun. So that's, he's rather nice, I think. And then this one is the caracal cat. So again, he's sort of got tufty bits. I had a look at some pictures of the different cats. It's quite fun. Some of them were just the cutest, most gorgeous little cats, and little tiny baby cats. And then when they got grown up, they had the biggest teeth. It was just scary. This is the Chinese mountain cat. Yeah, no, I haven't got page numbers on, which is a good thing. I really dislike books with page numbers on, but it means that you have to just work out where you are. This is Iriomote cat. I-R-I-O-M-O-T-E. Iriomote cat. I think it's cute. Looks like a domestic cat. This is the one that I've chosen to colour. This is a marbled cat. I've printed it out on a different piece of paper, you'll see in a bit. This is an Oncilla cat. There's no H, I don't know. So anyone who likes cats, this is great. This is a Pallas cat. Now I had a look in the Etsy shop, and actually this book is really cheap. This is a rusty spotted cat. Compared to some PDF books, I think it was less than £3. You could buy some of the single images for less than £1, or you could just get the whole book. This is a Scottish wildcat. I was tempted by this one, but I didn't in the end. This is a serval cat, and the last one is a Sudanese wildcat. Now often people do think that PDFs can seem quite expensive, but once you've got the file, you can print it as many times as you like. And so compared to a printed book, that is good. But obviously you have to provide your own paper. So I'm going to leave that there because I'm going to lean on it. I printed this off on some toned paper. I've not coloured on this dark, a paper this dark before. So it's going to be a bit of an experiment for me. But a bit of fun. I'll just show you the paper that I used. I used this Derwent toned paper assortment pad. So there are different colours of paper. There's a really dark brownish. I decided to go for the sort of greyish, because a lot of cats have a sort of greyish brown colour in their fur, so I thought it would be a good base, but I'm not sure how the eyes are going to work and the nose. But anyway, I'm going to do a little bit of colouring. I'm not going to colour the whole thing, obviously there's a lot there, but I've got my Polychromos because I wanted a transparent pencil, but now I'm wondering whether that was such a good idea. For the eyes particularly, I wanted transparent, so let's start with the eyes. Now I quite like the idea of a sort of orangey yellowy eye, so that's why I'm going to start. I'm actually going to start with a light colour. This is 105, which is a light cadmium yellow, and I'm going to start, let's come in a bit closer. I'm going to do both eyes at once so that I can make sure they're the same. But as I said, I don't know how it's going to come out on this paper, so we'll just have to see. So this is quite toothy paper, which means it allows for lots of layers, which is quite useful. Now this dot on the eye is obviously shine, and it should look white, you know, because it's catching the light, but because I've printed this on paper that isn't white, I'm going to have to go over the top of that in a white pen eventually when we get around to it. So there's my base for the eye. It's very rough and ready, it just gets me started. Then I'm going to grab a more orangey colour. This is a dark chrome yellow. Gosh, that might be better for you. And I'm going to start to just inject a little colour. So I want the edges to be darker than the centre. I always feel like that's how eyes look. It's probably easy to actually copy one, which I'm not doing. So I'm just going to bring that colour in a bit, but leaving a lighter bit in the middle, like that. Do the same on this side. Sorry, I'm sort of repeating myself by doing the same on both sides, but otherwise I'll forget what I'm doing. I'll come back to this and not know. I suppose I could watch my own video, but there we go. It's a good idea if you're doing this sort of thing to do them both at once, or else you might just mess up really. So I'm going to go darker now. I'm going to go to burnt ochre. It's a sort of orangey brown, and I want quite a lot more colour down here on this lower part, but I want to keep it looking a bit orangey, which is why I'm going for this more orangey brown at the moment. But tiniest bit along there and there. There we go. You can see it just slowly darkening it up. I don't want it mega dark because I like the idea of it shining out a little bit, but we need to sort of get some sort of some texture into it, I suppose. So I'm going to finish with the burnt sienna, and there are lines drawn on the eye which you may not see, and they're drawn on in black, and I'm just going to go over those in this burnt sienna. Like that, and then I'm going to put a line along the inside and along the outside, like that, and do the same on this eye. I set my boys a little task to do while I was recording. I'm hoping they're doing it. They seem to be talking chess, which was not what I set them to do. There we go. Now I'm wondering whether, I think I'm going to do this is where it's black, I'm actually going to colour over it in black, because my black pencil is shiny. I think it's going to look better than the black print. So I'm actually going to colour over this in black. Now you can compare that to that, see what you think. I think it looks better, but you know, it's obviously up to you. I'm going to do this bit under here as well. There we go. I think that looks better. We'll do the other side. Now if you quite like these pictures but don't want to sort of buy them on Etsy, you can't afford to, or you know, you're not too sure, I'm going to use the white and do the white bit. I'm using a white Posca pen. Do find Nick Banks on Instagram if you use Instagram, and follow him on there. It's a nice way to support him even if you're not buying his item. Wow. That's made quite a difference, hasn't it? So there is the eyes. I can do the little nose next. I quite like doing them in a sort of pink. I'm going to start actually with the light flesh colour, which is also known as beige red in our Polychromos. Can you see? Yeah, I'm just going to go right over the top of that. Again, with the toned paper, I'm not sure how it's going to look, so it's a bit of an experiment really, because the tone was supposed to help me with the fur. Well, we haven't got there yet, have we? And this bit too, and then with my next colour I shall add some darker areas. Okay, that'll do as a base. It's very bright, isn't it? I think I'm going to go significantly darker. I think I'll go for the dark flesh colour, which is also called salmon. Okay, and I'm thinking, where's it going to be a bit darker? Probably around the edges. Let's just feather that in a little bit. And carry on around, sort of feathering it in, you know, scumble, I think is another word I like to use. I'm thinking this might be higher, so I'm thinking I might just extend that line in the middle, taking that up each side. I'm also going to make that bit down here a bit darker, because I'm thinking this bit's facing us from the front and this bit's on the top, so this is more likely to catch the light. Compared to this bit, which I think will be a bit darker. Now often these pinks are sort of quite a dusky pink rather than being so bright, but I don't have that sort of tone. I'm wondering, oh, what about that? What's that? I've got a bit of a cinnamon. I might try the cinnamon. Just sort of, it's not going to make it grey, but it might add this sort of darker, shadowy look that I'm trying to get, which I think it is. I'm just sticking really close to the edges with this, and here in the middle. There, I think that's okay. I think it's time we did a bit of fur. I think if we do a bit on the nose where that we can see, I think that sort of makes sense. Now, I can't remember what colour this one is, so I'm just going to go for it really. Now, the grey background I think is going to help me with this, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to use this sort of greyish brown. We don't have really greyish browns, but I'm going to use the bistre to start with. Here it is, and I'm just going to put some fur on and see what it looks like. Now if you want to try and do your strokes in the direction you think the fur would be growing. And we have lines on this bit to help us, which is quite useful. In here I feel that there needs to be a bit of shadow. Just going to draw that in. And you can see the grey paper through, but I think it's okay. Whereas if that was white, I'm not sure it would work. Or pink or green or blue or yellow. So it looks a bit scruffy, but I think it can work. Because as I say, because it's fur. So what I would do with this is use this across the whole cat. A light layer of this. Just using this stroke to imitate fur, and then use a darker one. I think the walnut brown is still quite a warm one, which is, I think it will work with this. And then think about emphasizing a few strokes like that, and thinking where it's drawn in. I think here is going to be a bit darker. And then maybe some shorter ones on here. If you think about the nose, it's usually lighter in the middle, so I think if we can get more of these edges. Oh, excuse me, my nose is itching. And then a bit less towards the centre. Like that. There we go. How are we doing? Now, I always feel that got a little bit here and here which I think needs to be a bit darker, so put some darker strokes in here. And now we've got this black around the nose. I'm going to grab my black again and do those. So in here, like we did with the eye, to sort of re-emphasise those are really black. And I'm thinking I might do a few black strokes. Just in there where I want it to be darker. Like that. Oops. Now around the eyes I find a little tricky, but what I'm thinking is under here it's going to be darker than here, so that's how I'm going to sort of do it. So I've got my lighter pencil, the bistre, and I'm going to do this bit, let's move across a bit, in this direction in the way that it's drawn, although that one's drawn down, maybe down. And then thinking about that bit seems to come right across to here. Now I'm sort of ignoring the patterning on this one. You don't have to. You can, you know, shade up according to how that pattern is drawn. But I've sort of decided that I'm just going to do this sort of furry stroke action throughout. And if the pattern shows through, that's fine. If it doesn't, again, that's fine. So I'm just layering up like that, and then do the same on the other side. But I'm not doing this bit right underneath the eye. That's because I want that to be a bit darker, so I'm not going to start with my light colour. I'm going to start with my slightly darker colour. And then, now animals and fur is not something I've had loads of practice at, but it's something that I want to do more. So this is a fun sort of exercise for me. So you might be far more skilled in doing fur than me, but it's just a fun start really to show you. Now this paper is quite thick, which is nice. It's 120 GSM, so it's a little bit thicker than, yeah, it's thicker than normal. Oh no, is that as dark as we want to go? Yeah, let's go to the walnut brown and let's do this bit. So yes, it's a little bit thicker than standard photocopy paper. I'm not sure what that tends to be. So it's good for this, good for pencils, I find. I always like something to lean on, which is why I put the printed book underneath. And I wouldn't advise leaning on a piece of paper that you're going to colour. I'd never do that. But as those were just printed out to show you and not to colour, then it's fine. But I sometimes lean on the back of a book. I've got a couple of Colouring Heaven magazines. They're quite good to lean on because they're the right size. They're this size. Now I'm also going to use this colour a little bit on here, but not too much, so just sort of spread out strokes really, just to emphasise that sort of furry look. I don't know if my fur strokes are a bit too big. But anyway. Now we've got this black bit going down here. Again, I'm going to emphasise that with my pencil, with my black pencil. I think adding this sort of extra intensity and shininess to it makes a big difference. We're just going to do one last bit. I'm not going to finish the whole of this. I will finish it, but not on camera. So I'm thinking just do this bit around here, and I'm thinking this might be a bit darker. So I'm going to start with the bistre like I did under here. Sorry, the walnut brown. Talking nonsense. I don't know whether this bit is going to be light grey or not. I'm going to look up the cat and just decide really what colour to do that bit there. And the whiskers, are they black, are they white? I don't know. I also think the cat has some black markings, which I'm wondering if this might be. So I might do that in a, I might not do it in black because our black is really for these really dark bits. I might grab like a Payne's grey. Or maybe a sepia if I don't want such a, if I want a warmer black. I'll have a look. I'll probably go for the warmer black, to be honest. So that's that. Now I'll just show you the eyelids, I think. once I've done this. I might add some more black to this, or even some more just general strokes of colour eventually. But the eyelids, I'm going to start with the bistre. And just do that all over firstly. But I feel that the eyelids would be shaped, so they would be dark in here and under there, and also darker here and here. So that's what I'm going to try and show you. Sorry, you probably can't see anything, my hand's right in the way, but I'm just doing a layer of this first. So with my walnut brown, I'm going to put strokes in the areas where I think it'd be darker, so in here, and then fade them, so put them further apart, so more here and then less in here. I think I'm just going to put brown on top of that instead of black, and under here as well, so it's not quite as dark as the pupil, which we want to be really dark, but it's you know, it just shows a little bit, and a little bit coming out of the top of here. Like that. Yeah, I hope you can see that, how it's a bit different to this one. And then I'm just going to do the same with this one. Just put some colour in at each end. So a tip as well for you is, you know, when you're doing a symmetrical picture, is to do the two bits together rather than doing one and then leaving it for a while, because you'll forget what you did. So much better to try to do it all at once. So there is what I have done so far. I think I want to tidy up the bottom of here and here a lot, so I'm just going to sharpen my bistre and put a lot more strokes in. You can see what a difference it makes just with that little bit having a more intense layer of colour. And but having the non-white paper behind means that I don't have to do quite as much work, because the grey that shows through doesn't look too pale. Whereas if this was a white paper, I would have to make sure I covered up every little bit. And this is also a textured paper, so covering up everything is quite difficult. So it's quite nice to not have to do that, or else it takes a lot longer. I mean, you might want to take ages and do that, but you know me, always in a hurry. So even though I'm doing this again to make it look more intense, I don't want to spend 3 years doing it. Oops, we're moving around all over the place. Now if you want a better eye tutorial, I'm pretty sure that Barbara Colour has one on her channel. I'm pretty sure. And I'm sure a lot of other people do too. I bet Lisa Macatron does as well. But I had fun with mine. Now this bit under the eye looks a little bit sparse as well, and what I'm actually going to use this same bistre over it. just to lighten it a little bit under here. And the order you use the colours is important, whether you use your dark colour first or your light colour first. It does make a difference to the eventual colour. But to be honest, with this page, because I'm not going for realistic colours or effects, I think that it doesn't make that much difference as long as you do the same on each side. And this definitely looks darker than this, which is what I want. Now if you want your fur to really stand out, using a fine pen can be a good one to try, but also a really sharp pencil. I'm struggling a bit because this is textured paper, so that makes it a little bit more difficult to show up the fur because we've got all the bumps in the paper as well. So it might work better with a smooth paper for fur. But I'm just playing, really, so we'll see. But I am going to stop now and go and look at a guide picture and sort of finish it off. And I will put a picture at the end of the finished cat. But let me just come out and you can just see how it's looking. It looks a bit weird. I think we're just a bit coloured. But I may dull that nose down a little bit. It's very bright. I'm not sure what with. Maybe a red or not really red. I'm not sure. Maybe a bit of grey. But it might just work. So I've just got to keep going with it and see what happens really. But I think I'm mainly going to use my bistre all over and then use the walnut brown in areas where it should be dark. But I want to check out whether this is light or dark, and same here. Sometimes around the mouth they're very pale. And also whether there are black, I think there might be some black markings around here which would be quite fun to include. So I'll see. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. It's something really different for me and I'm looking forward to finishing it. And as I say, at the end of the video, I'll share a completed picture because I want to get on and do it. So it'll be good. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope that was interesting for you. As I say, I'll put the link to this in the Etsy shop in the description, but also to Nick Banks's Instagram, because he's just sort of starting out, so it's nice to give him a bit of support. His Instagram has got some of his digital art on, which is really amazing, I think, as well. So that might be interesting. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Do have a really lovely day and happy colouring.